All right. So horizontal and vertical transformations. In bell work, we kind of talked through these. Okay. The one thing that throws students off a little bit is that when we write it as a function notation. Okay. And so we could say f of x is equal to x squared. Okay. And then they could say x plus h squared plus k, where the h and the k are numbers. That's an h, even though it definitely doesn't look like one. Okay. They wrote it in function notation. So basically, instead of making it specifically a parabola, hey, it could be anything. Okay, and in bell work, we talked about this. But if you add or subtract something inside the grouping symbols, so inside of parentheses, underneath the square root, underneath the fraction, it's somehow connected with the h, that is going to shift us left and right. And we found out we do the opposite. Okay, for example, if it says plus 2 inside the grouping symbols, normally when I think plus, I think right, but that plus 2 is actually going to take us left 2. Okay, so we do the opposite there. We've got a plus k, a number tagged on the end. Okay, if a number is tagged on the end like this plus k, that is going to shift us up and down. And we do what it says. Okay, we do what it says. So if it says plus, we go up. If it says minus, we go down. Questions? Let's look at it. Number 3, 1 over x plus 3 minus 2. Show me with your arms. What is the shape of that graph right there? 1 over x plus 3 minus 2. No, we forgot. We forgot all we did all day on Friday, and we know we are all wrong. We're all super wrong. Don't do that. I'm looking at number 3. Oh, see? I said number 3, cheaters. Do number 3. Show me with your arms. What does number 3 look like? Oh, yeah, you guys just didn't look weird enough to me. There we go. That's correct. That's a reciprocal graph. Okay, you can tell it's a fraction. Okay, so my shape is the reciprocal graph. I drew a quick little picture of it right there. Reciprocal graph. We're starting with this one because it's the toughest one. If we can do this one, we can do the rest. Left or right? Left. How many are we shifting left? 3. This plus 3, that is grouped with my x. Even though there's not parentheses or absolute value signs around it, that is considered with my x because it's underneath the fraction bar. And when you put it underneath like that, it is grouped. Okay. That minus 2, is that taking us up or down? Down. So we are going down 2. So left 3, down 2. That right there normally would be like my vertex. When we graph parabolas, that was my vertex. That's not going to be my vertex here. What is that dot going to represent for us in this graph? Those are my asymptotes. Normally we have asymptotes on the 2 axes lines. But because I shifted left 3 and down 2, these right here are going to represent new axes. So I'm going to draw some little dashed lines through here just to help me understand what's going on. So those are the lines that I get really close to, but I don't touch. Okay. Then I'm going to graph this thing. I go up into the right one. I go down into the left one. Hug the curves. Hug the curves. There's my line right there. Questions on the first one, how I shifted? Try 1 and 2. See if you can do the same thing there on 1 and 2. Glance at your neighbors every once in a while and see if they're doing it the same as you. On that first one there, Sam, what was your shape on that first one? It's a V shape. It's absolute value, so we got a V shape here. Megan, did this graph go left or right? No, you're good. Go for it. It goes left. How many? 3. Left 3. It says plus 3, so that's going to take us to the left 3. And then Aaron, C, what do you think on up or down? Down 4. Good. Left 3, down 4. There's my starting dot. It's a V, absolute value, so the simplest, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. There's my graph. Next one says square root of x minus 2 plus 4. Square root of x minus 2 plus 4. Lydia, what's my shape going to be? That's a teapot. Teapot, remember it's this guy right there. That's the shape we're looking with. Eli, are we going left or right? Right, how many? Right, 2. Up or down here, Haley? Up 4, good. It is a teapot graph. What's my pattern with teapot? 1, 3, 5. 1, 3, 5. Square root, teapot, same thing. Square root, square. They're both 1, 3, 5. All right, so let's do that. Right 2, up 4. There's my starting dot. My pattern is 1, 3, 5. So I'm going up 1 over 1, up 1 over 3, up 1 over 5 would be off my paper. There's going to be my graph right there. Questions with the basics. Let's get crazy then. Let's go to the next one. Vertical and horizontal flips. Okay, negative signs in front of your functions are going to flip your graphs. If there is a negative sign times your whole function, okay, like negative x squared, negative x cubed, negative absolute value of x, the negatives in front of the grouping symbols, okay, then we flip vertically. We're going to flip vertically. That one's not too hard, okay? Let's just do that one so we see one here. Negative x plus 2 squared. Show me with your arms what's my shape going to be. Negative x plus 2 squared. Show me the arms what's your shape going to be. It's a parabola. But the plus 2 point, which way is the plus 2 going to take me? Left 2. So I'm going left 2. It's a parabola. There is a negative in front of everything. What is that negative going to do to my graph? Flip it vertically. And so instead of going up, it is now going to go down. So it's going to be this general shape. It's a parabola. So my pattern is 1, 3, 5. I'm down 1 over 1, down 3 over 1, and down 5 over 1. There's my graph. Questions on the first one? Try the second one, negative x cubed plus 2. Think about what that would look like. Let's look, negative x cubed plus 2. Show me the arms. What's the shape? It's x cubed, so we're this way, but there's a negative in front. What's that negative going to do? Flip vertically. Okay, so instead of our normal shape that looks like this, we're going to flip it vertically and look like that instead. Okay, there's my general shape. Point, which way is that plus 2 going to take me? That's up 2, so I'm going up 2. And then I'm going to graph my cubic function, or my cubic function. What is my pattern for cubic? 1, 7. So I'm up 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, and then I'm going to be up 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 over 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 over 1. With any of these graphs, I want you to learn these rules. You will be a much better math student if you can remember and understand these transformations. But let's say you got done and you're like, I am not sure if that's correct. You can always plug in a point. So for example, I've got the point 2, negative 6 on my graph. Okay, I got this point right here, 2, negative 6. If I'm not sure, plug in 2 and see if you get negative 6. 2 cubed would be 8. It's negative, so it's negative 8 plus 2. Oh yeah, it gets me negative 6. You can always check your points that way. Okay, we're learning some different rules, but we can always go that way. All right, so a negative out in front, we flip vertically. If the negative is inside the grouping symbol with my x, okay, like this thing right here. This one's the tricky one. Okay, then we flip horizontally. We flip horizontally. Okay, so there's a difference. The negative has to be inside the grouping symbol. If something's inside your grouping symbol, that's going to mess with you horizontally. Outside the grouping symbol, that's going to mess with you vertically. Okay? The one thing you have to pay attention to is if you flip horizontally and you shift, you need to factor the negative out. Here's what I mean by that. Okay? If I were to give you this shape right here, negative x plus 2 squared, that 2 is going to take us to the right 2. Okay? Because what all they did is they had this negative and factored a negative out. So if you have a negative in front of your x, think the number in there is going to go differently as well. That 2 right here is really going to take me to the right 2. That is the tricky thing for today. Okay? So let's look at letter C. If it said the square root of negative x plus 2, show me with your arm what's your general shape going to be. If I just said square root, what's a square root graph going to look like? Square root's a teapot. Okay? I've got the negative in front of the x, so which way is that going to flip me? Horizontal. And so my shape is now going to look which way? Show me what's that negative going to do to it. Horizontal, okay? It's a horizontal flip. So if I look like this and I flip horizontally, my graph looks like that now, okay? All we did is we flipped horizontally. The +2 points, which direction is that +2 going to take you? That +2 is going to take me to the right. Because of the horizontal flip, it's going to take me the opposite direction. Again, think of it like factoring out a negative. Okay, that is the same thing as this right here. The square root of a negative x minus 2. Or in other words, that 2 is taking me to the right. So I go right 2. That's going to be my starting dot. Then I'm going to graph my square root graph. What is the pattern for square root? 1, 3, 5. So I'm going up 1 over 1, up 1 over 3, up 1 over 5. If you don't believe me, plug in 1. And see if when you plug in 1, you get 1. I do. If I plug in 1, I get 1, which matches this point right here that I had. And so it's just saying, yeah, I'm doing well. Questions with that one? Last one's tricky. A whole lot of stuff going on. Take a second. See if you can do that without my help. Let's look. Negative cube root, negative x minus 1 plus 3. Show me with your arms, what is a cube root graph going to look like? Cube root. So don't go up. Remember, cube root, just like a square root. A square root looks like this. So if it's cube root, it's going to look the same way. What's different when it's a cube root? There's the other side too. There's the tail. Okay, that's my cube root graph. Oh no, there's a negative in front. What is that negative going to do to my graph? Show me their arms. What's that negative going to do to your graph? It's going to flip us vertically. So basically you flip and go the other way. So now my shape is going to look like this when I flip vertically. Oh no, there's a negative in front of my x. What is that negative in front of my x going to do? Horizontal flip. Makes it look like this. How is that different than what I started with? It's not. It's the same. Why? Because it's an odd graph. Think about what an odd function does. An odd function, you can flip over the x-axis and the y-axis and be the same. Well, that's what we just did. We flipped over the x and the y-axis. It's still the same shape. Okay, so we're back to the original. Point for me, which direction is that -1 going to take my graph? Point, which direction is that -1 going to take your graph? Careful here, you've got the negative with the minus. Remember, negative with the minus. We got to factor that negative out, so it's really going to take me left. Okay, negative x plus 1. You take that negative out, it's going to move me to the left one. The +3 is going to take me up 3. There's my starting dot. It's a cube root graph. What's my pattern on cube root? 1, 7. So I'm up 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, and then up 7. I'm sorry, up 1 over 7. 5, 6, 7. I can't count. There we go. If you don't believe me, plug in the number 0. And when I plug in 0, it looks like I'm getting 4. If I plug in 0, I'm taking the cube root of -1. Yeah, that's -1. Then there's a negative sign in front. So now it's a +1. +3 gets me 4. Cool. The point that I checked worked out. Questions with anything there? Show me a number right now, 0 to 5. 0 meaning you're not good at this. 5 meaning you're doing well. Where are you on that 0 to 5 scale? Okay. You'll do better as we keep going. Good news again, tomorrow we're doing the same thing. So right now you're a little unsure, you'll get better. It is some memorization, and you just got to figure it out. Okay, here on the back side, I'm adding one more tricky thing. Okay, I'm throwing a lot at you today, so tomorrow all we have to do is practice. Last thing we've got here is vertical stretches and compressions. Okay, if you have a number that's multiplied times your function, like 3x squared. Okay, there's a number out in front, it's being multiplied. Then we are vertically going to stretch by that value. Okay, we're going to stretch vertically, so we're going to go up faster, basically. That is different than if we have a number that is being multiplied inside of grouping symbols. Okay, a times x. If we've got an a value right there and we're multiplying x, then we horizontally stretch. Okay, and we're going to stretch horizontally by the reciprocal. So basically, remember, if it's inside the grouping symbol, something funky's happening on. Okay, if it says plus, we go the opposite. Okay, if it's a negative, we got to factor it out. Or here, if we got a number, we've got to stretch by the reciprocal. Okay, kind of weird. This one, the top one, stretching vertically, not hard. Stretching horizontally, a little bit annoying. Let's try. Okay, letter A. This is the kind of question that I would give you on a test and make sure you're great at. There are some that are harder. Okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, I would put this one at about a 6, which should be right in your wheelhouse. You shouldn't miss these. Okay, you'll get to some that you'll miss because they're tough. But let's look at the first one. -2, x plus 4 squared plus 3. Show them with your arms. What's your shape? It's a parabola. Okay, so my shape's going to be a parabola, but it's negative, so what's really going to look like? It's a downward parabola. So I'm going to draw that downward. That's my shape. It's going to be a downward parabola because it's squared and it's negative. Point. Which direction is that +4 going to take your graph? The +4 is going to take my graph left. Point. That +3 is tagged on the end. Which way is that +3 going to take me? Up 3. Cool. I've done this. I did the negative. I did all that. All I have left is a 2. Okay. The 2, it's in front. It's going to stretch me vertically. Okay. What is my normal pattern for a parabola? 1, 3, 5. I'm going to write this out in words so you see it better. Okay. So up 1 over 1. Up 3 over 1. Up 5 over 1. That 2 in front is stretching me vertically. Which thing is vertical, up or over? Up. I'm stretching these numbers by 2. And so instead of 1, 3, 5, what do you think my new pattern is going to be? It is now going to be a 2, 6, 10 pattern because I'm just taking those numbers and I'm multiplying by 2 because I'm vertically stretching by 2. All right, so let's graph that. So I'm on left 4, up 3. There's my starting dot. It's a parabola. It's flipped vertically. My pattern is 2, 6, 10. So instead of up 1 over 1, I'm going down. But I'm down 2 over 1, down 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Over 1, down 10 over 1. I'm off my graph, so I'm not going to worry about it. There are my dots. Okay. Again, if I'm not sure, I'm going to pick an ordered pair. In this case, I've got the ordered pair -2, -5. Right there is on my graph. If I plug in -2, -2 plus 4 would be 2. 2 squared would be 4. Times -2 would be -8. Plus 3, oh yeah, it's -5. Take a point on your graph and plug it in if you're not sure. Okay, it's a great way to check. Questions with A? Let's do letter B. Negative. X minus 3 cubed minus 2. Show me with your arms. What's the shape? Is it cubed or cube rooted? Cubed. If you take a number and you cube it, it gets way bigger, way faster. Okay, so some of you are giving me the cube roots. Oh my gosh, I can't draw it. Some of you are giving me that shape right there. Don't give me that shape. Okay, my shape is like that. It's cubed. It's going up. Okay, I've got a negative in front of my X. How is that going to flip me? The negative in front of my X? Horizontally. So I'm taking that shape and I'm flipping it horizontally. So my new shape is really going to be that. It looks just like a vertical flip because, again, it has odd symmetry. Okay, they end up being the same when you flip them twice. So my shape is that because of the negative in front as well. I've got a -3 point. Which direction is that -3 going to take my graph? It is going to take me left 3 because remember, you've got to factor that negative out. And so that it's really saying +3. I'm going left 3. The -2 is taking me down 2. Left 3, down 2. It's cube root, so my pattern is 1, 7. There's my picture. Questions there? Yes, ma'am. Huh? Oh, I didn't flip it horizontally. Yeah, don't do that. I'm a silly goose. Let's flip that. That's my real dot. I didn't flip it horizontally. That's why I draw a picture. But when I'm graphing up here in the front, I cut it off in order to graph it, so then I graphed it wrong. So don't do that. I'm going up 1, over 1, down 1, over 1, up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It did not. There's not a number in front that's being multiplied. Does that make sense? There's not a number in front or a number in front of my x. Let's go to the next one. Y equals 1/2 x cubed. Y equals 1/2 x cubed. Show me with your arms. What's my shape? It's cubed. Did it move left and right at all? No. Vertical or horizontal flip? No. So cool. We're starting right here at 0, 0. Okay. Let's just do this a different way. Pick a number that would be a good number to plug in. What would be a good value to plug in here? 2, right? If I plugged in 2, it'd be 1/2 times 2, so 1. And then 1 cubed would get me 1. So when I plug in 2, I get 1. If I plugged in -2, I would get -1. You guys agree with me on that? -2 times 1/2, that's -1. -1 cubed would be -1. Cool, I got those dots. Okay. What would be another good number to plug in here? 4, right? 4, half of 4 is 2. 2 cubed would be 8. So if I plug in 4, I get 8. If I plug in -4, I get -8. There is my graph. It is stretched horizontally. Okay. I've got this 1/2. It's inside the grouping symbol. That's a horizontal stretch. Normally my pattern here would be up 1, over 1, up 7, over 1. That would be my normal pattern. But I've got a 1/2 stretch. So right here we talked about if we stretch horizontally, we do it by the reciprocal. So which number am I changing? Am I changing my up or my over number? My over number, because it's a horizontal stretch. And what am I going to multiply that 1 by? 2, because it's a 1/2. I do the reciprocal. I multiply by 2. That is why when I made this graph, I went up 1 over 2, up 7 over 2. That's how I made those dots. Okay, it's a little bit funky. That's why we had to kind of go a little bit slower. Do another one. Letter D. The square root of -1/2 x. Square root of -1/2 x. Show me with your arm. What's my general shape here? Square root. The teapot graph looks like this. There's a negative inside the grouping symbol. So show me with your arm. What's it going to look like now? It's negative. That is a horizontal flip. So my graph's going to look like that. Cool. It didn't get shifted at all. So I'm right here at 0, 0. I'm going to the left. My pattern for a square root. What's my pattern for square root? 135. Because it's square root. Square root. 135. So I'm up 1 over 1. Up 1 over 3. Up 1 over 5. Am I stretched on this graph? How am I stretched? Horizontally or vertically? Horizontal, because it's inside the grouping symbol. Inside the grouping symbol is always horizontal. So that is stretching my over numbers. What do I need to take those over numbers and multiply by? 2. I'm multiplying it by 2. So it's 2, 6, 10 horizontally. So what does that mean? Up 1 over 2. Up 1 over 6. Up 1 over 10. That's going to be my shape right there. Make sense with what's going on there? It's a little bit weird. Okay. And again, if you don't love it, you need to have these memorized, these rules memorized. It makes, you can't do the problems we're doing tomorrow without memorizing the rules. Okay. But if we're doing a problem like this, you can always check your point. -8, 2. If I plugged in -8, that'd be -1/2 times -8. Oh, that would be 4. Square root of 4 is 2. Yeah, that's what I thought. I got that point correct. Okay, let's do one more. Letter E. -2/5, absolute value, x plus 3 plus 2. Show me with your arm. What's the shape? It's a V. Point. Which direction is that plus 3 going to take my graph? Takes me left 3. Point. Which way is that plus 2 going to take my graph? Up 2. It's a V, but there's a negative in front. What's that negative in front going to do to it? Vertical flip. So my shape is going to look like this. I'm going left 3, down, up 2, you've got this 2/5, and that 2/5 makes kids sad, okay? Because now it's a vertical stretch. So normally I would go down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. That would be my normal pattern. Well, here I need to go down 2/5 over 1, down 2/5 over 1, down 2/5 over 1. It looks really weird, okay? The good news is, if you're good with numbers here, you'll know that going down 2/5 over 1, 2/5 over 1 is the same thing as going down 2 over 5. So with an absolute value, you can treat that like slope. Okay, just a quick tip. If it is absolute value, just treat that like slope. So I'm going down 2 over 5. So down 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Down 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Questions there? Let's have you graph this thing real quick. Negative square root of a negative x minus 2 plus 3. Take a second with your neighbor, graph that. Show me with your arm, what's the general shape going to be? But there's a negative out in front. What's the negative going to do to it in front? It's going to flip upside down. So we started with this shape, but it's negative, so it's going to become this shape. But there's a negative inside, so what's that going to do to it? Flip it horizontally. So my ending shape is going to look like that. Point, careful here. Point, which direction is the minus 2 going to take my graph? That minus 2 is going to take you left 2, because the negative in front of your x. Remember to factor that out. Left 2, down, or up 3. Okay, I gave you a homework assignment. That will not